Hello, how's everyone doing? It's been a couple weeks, so I thought I'd make a quick video. The theme of today's video is joy. Now, the Bible is 66 books, and it's divided between the New Testament and the Old Testament. And both of these testaments point to a certain mood that you're supposed to be in, which is joy. In the letters from Paul, in Thessalonians, he says, always be joyful, never stop praying. Paul also writes in Philippians 4:4, always be full of joy in the Lord. I say it again, rejoice. He writes in 2nd Philippians, but I will rejoice even if I lose my life, pouring it out like a liquid offering to God, just like your faithful service is an offering to God. And I want all of you to share that joy. Yes, you should rejoice, and I will share your joy. He writes, when he wraps up 2 Corinthians, dear brothers and sisters, I close my letter with these last words, be joyful. And earlier in the letter, he writes, we have been beaten, but we have not been killed. Our hearts ache, but we always have joy. Did you know that your heart can ache? You can still be joyful. Things can be not going well in life, but you can still be full of joy. There's a section about Paul's joy at the church's repentance. His presence was a joy, but so was the news he brought of the encouragement he received from you. When he told us how you long to see me and how sorry you are for what happened and how loyal you are to me, I was filled with joy. 2 Corinthians 8. They are being tested by many troubles, and they are very poor, but they are also filled with abundant joy, which has overflowed in rich generosity. That's interesting. These people are so joyful that their joy is overflowing, and they're being generous to other people. My favorite of Jesus' lines about joy is John 15:11. I have told you these things so that you will be filled with my joy. Yes, your joy will overflow. And he also says in the 17th chapter, I told them many things while I was with them in this world, so that they would be filled with my joy. So the reason Jesus is talking to people is so that they'll be filled with his joy. And he also says that people's joy will overflow. Now, I thought for this little mini sermon, I would just read to you all the times joy is mentioned in the book of Psalms. Psalms is like poetry written by King David way before Jesus was on earth. Psalm 1. Oh, the joys of those who do not follow the advice of the wicked or stand around with sinners. Serve the Lord with reverent fear and rejoice with trembling. What joy for all who take refuge in him. Psalm 4, you have given me greater joy. Psalm 5, let all who take refuge in you rejoice. Let them sing joyful praises forever. Spread your protection over them, that all who love your name will be filled with joy. Psalm 9, I will be filled with joy because of you. Save me so I can praise you publicly at Jerusalem's gates, so I can rejoice that you have rescued me. Psalm 13, I will rejoice because you have rescued me. 14, when the Lord restores his people, Jacob will shout with joy and Israel will rejoice. 16, no wonder my heart is glad and I rejoice. You will show me the way of life, granting me joy of your presence. "19. The commandments of the Lord are right, bringing joy to the heart. It rejoices like a great athlete eager to run the race. May we shout for joy when we hear of your victory. How the king rejoices, 20. How the king rejoices in your strength, O Lord. He shouts for joy because you give him victory. You have endowed him with eternal blessings. and given him the joy of your presence. All who seek the Lord will praise him. Their hearts will rejoice with everlasting joy. There's a lot of joy. We're only at the 22nd chapter of the book, and it goes on for 160 or so. At his sanctuary I will offer sacrifices with shouts of joy. Weeping may last through the night, but joy comes with the morning. Psalm 30. You have turned my mourning into joyful dancing. You have taken away my clothes of mourning and clothed me with joy. I will be glad and rejoice in your unfailing love. Oh, what joy for those whose disobedience is forgiven, whose sin is put out of sight. Yes, what joy for those. Are you picking up what emotion is dominating here? So rejoice in the Lord and be glad, all you who obey him. Shout for joy, all you whose hearts are pure. 33. Let the godly sing for joy to the Lord. Sing a new song of praise to him. Play skillfully on the harp and sing with joy. What joy for the nation whose God is the Lord. In him our hearts rejoice. Now this is one of my favorites, Psalm 34. Those who look to him for help will be radiant with joy. Picture someone who's radiant with joy. I've been watching YouTube videos about different people preaching about joy, and a lot of what I watched was people talking about how miserable life is and that you try to be happy anyway, knowing that you're going to heaven. But that's not really what I see being, that's not the picture I see being painted in the Bible. I see someone whose life is working, situations around them may be tough, but is actually in the emotion of joy. Looks joyful, sounds joyful. So what environment should a church feel like? It should feel joyful. What mood should leaders be in? They should be joyful. What should people who dedicate their life in a serious way to the Bible, what mood should they be in? They should be joyful. And Psalm 34 talks about someone who is radiant with joy. So you're not just kind of like plodding along in life and it sucks and everything's going wrong, but you're like, well, it's going to end up well. That's not the picture that I see painted here. Now this isn't joy, but it's still pretty good. All humanity finds shelter in the shadow of your wings. You feed them from the abundance of your own house, letting them drink from your river of delights. You're drinking from a river of delights? I mean, what mood would a person that's doing that be in? Psalm 35, then I will rejoice in the Lord. You give great joy to those who came to my defense. Great joy, not mild joy. Not just getting through in life. Take delight in the Lord, and he will give you your heart's desires. That's a good one. Psalm 40. Oh, the joys of those who trust in the Lord. I take joy in doing your will, my God. But may all who search for you be filled with joy and gladness in you. Psalm 41. Oh, the joys of those who are kind to the poor. Psalm 42. Singing for joy and giving thanks. Psalm 43, there I will go to the altar of God, to God, the source of all my joy. Did you know that God's the source of all your joy? Now I'm just going to throw this in here, even though it's off topic. Psalm 44, it was your right hand and strong arm, and the blinding light from your face that helped them. This is just a cool passage. I think they're looking at Jesus' face or God's face and he has a blinding light. That's pretty amazing. All right, back to joy. Psalm 45. You love justice and hate evil. Therefore God, your God, has anointed you, pouring out the oil of joy on you more than anyone else. What a joyful and enthusiastic procession as they enter the king's palace. 46. A river brings joy to the city of our God, the sacred home of the Most High. God dwells in that city. It cannot be destroyed. 47. Come everyone, clap your hands, shout to God with joyful praise. 48. It's high and magnificent. The whole earth rejoices to see it. Let the people on Mount Zion rejoice. Are you picking up a particular mood that this book focuses on? You have broken me, now let me rejoice. That means that, I think that means that you live your life how you want to until you pursue God, and then you get broken, and then you decide that you want to take the Bible seriously and take pursuing God seriously. So you live how you want to, and then it might feel bad because it doesn't work out, so then you get broken, and then you say, okay, let's just do it God's way. You've broken me, now let me rejoice. Right. 65. What joy for those you choose to bring near, those who live in your holy courts. From where the sun rises to where it sets, you inspire shouts of joy. The hillsides blossom with joy. They all shout and sing for joy. Let the godly rejoice. Let them be glad in God's presence. Let them be filled with joy. His name is the Lord. Rejoice in his presence. So, we've gone through about a third of it so far. How do you think a Christian should be living? Like, in what mood? Should they be depressed? Should they be just getting by and miserable stuff is happening? Should they be just barely making it? Should they be like have anxiety? What would you guess, having heard what we just talked about? 68. Let the godly rejoice. Let them be filled with joy. His name is the Lord. Rejoice in his presence. God places the lonely in families. He sets the prisoners free and gives them, guess. He sets the prisoners free and gives them joy. What kind of God is described in the Bible here? He sets prisoners free and gives them joy. I think I might have stopped circling all the time it says joy. Psalm 89. Happy are those who hear the joyful call to worship. They rejoice all day long in your wonderful reputation. How we're getting a picture here of how you're supposed to live and in what mood you're supposed to live. Happy are those who hear the joyful call to worship. They rejoice all day long. So in my opinion, being a Christian, you should be joyful all day long, or at least that should be your ideal that you work towards. And you know, life's tough all over, and everyone has challenges and everyone has problems. But a lot of times when I went on YouTube and I heard people preach about it, they were kind of saying like, we all know life sucks, but just bear it until you die, and you know, you can have the joy of knowing that something good's going to happen later. But that's not what's inside the book. A lot of people live in a way that their ideal isn't what's written in this book. So in Psalm 90, so we may sing for joy to the end of our lives. Let our children see your glory. Psalm 92, I sing for joy because what have you have done. When doubts filled my mind, your comfort gave me renewed hope and cheer. Psalm 94, renewed hope and cheer. You're supposed to be cheerful. Is everybody you know in church cheerful? Shout to the Lord, all the earth. Break out in praise and sing for joy. This is Psalm 98. Make a joyful symphony before the Lord the King. Make a joyful symphony before the Lord the King. Let the hills sing out their songs of joy before the Lord. Psalm 100. Shout with joy to the Lord, all the earth. Come before him singing with joy. When you go to church, you should be ready to sing and come before him with joy. All right. Psalm 106, let me rejoice in the joy of your people. Let me praise you with those who are your heritage. To be continued.